Procedure 220 Calabasas is a ritual to be performed each day as an effective means of maintaining containment of the entity. Failure at any point to properly perform this procedure may result in an XK class end of the world scenario. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today we bring you a SCP Foundation Keter class object SCP-2317. Hey there, before getting into the story of SCP-2317, I would like you to know that 2317 has multiple iterations and only the O5 Council knows the truth about it. So, in the first 5 iterations, SCP-2317 is a wooden door and frame, originally constructed as a basement door for a 19th century Massachusetts brownstone. Upon opening the door, any person stepping through the door frame will be transported to a salt desert dimension, hereafter referred to as SCP-2317 Prime. Exploration of 2317 Prime is limited, but the area directly accessible through 2317 is a salt pan several kilometers in radius. A circle of 7 pillars, SCP-2317-A to SCP-2317-G, are positioned in a 10-meter diameter circle approximately 10 meters directly in front of 2317. Each pillar approximately 1 meter in diameter and 7 meters tall, constructed of marble and engraved with a series of intricate bas-reliefs. The art style of the engravings does not correspond to that of any known modern, historic, or prehistoric civilization. According to Iteration 5, these 7 pillars extend 200 meters below the surface of the sand and into SCP-2317-H. 2317-H is a spherical space 100 kilometers in diameter located directly underneath the 7 pillars, lined with the same stone used to construct 2317-A to 2317-G. Contained within 2317-H is SCP-2317-K, hereafter referred to as Entity. Through seismic analysis, ground-penetrating radar, as well as direct observation, the Foundation's personnel found that the entity appears to be an obese, human-like creature of immense proportion. Estimated height, if fully erect, is over 200 kilometers. Horns resembling tree branches sprout from its head, which lacks a lower jaw. Entire body is covered in millions of overlapping plate-like scales. 7 heavy hooks are embedded in the entity's back, each one attached to a heavy steel chain connected to the lower end of one of the 7 pillars embedded in the ceiling of the chamber. However, 6 of the pillars and chains have been broken, and only 1 pillar and chain remain intact. In the final iteration, 2317-K appeared to be a primeval entity known as Devourer of Worlds. According to the Arakesh Codex, it was captured and imprisoned by Arakeshan mystics circa 1894 BCE. It is still not clear how a 19th century society discovered how to create a gate to Universe Kappa Arakesh, which is the prison of Devourer, nor their reasons for doing so. SCP-2317 was first discovered in 1922, but by the time 4 of the chains binding the entity had been accidentally broken, and the society had gone bankrupt multiple times trying to repair them. After the dissolution of the society, the founder of the Foundation came into possession of the door. Then it was moved to Containment Area 179 in 1982. 2317 is to be secured in a reinforced 3 by 3 by 3 meter containment chamber. Armed guards are to be in place at all times in order to prevent unauthorized access to the facility. All personnel assigned to SCP-2317 must rotate out for 1 month of psychological counseling after 2 months on site. Personnel assigned to 2317 must undergo heavy psychological testing before being cleared to enter the site. Individuals must score at least 72 points on the Milgram Obedience Examination, be unmarried, have no offspring, and express nothing less than total loyalty to the Foundation. While in the Foundation's care, 2 of the remaining 3 chains broke. The breaking of the 5th chain directly led to an event in the Foundation's world. After the 6th chain broke, it was also coincident with a much more severe event, eventually killing 2 million people. Procedure 220 Calabasas is a ritual to be performed at solar noon each day, as an effective means of maintaining containment of the entity. until an effective means of repairing or reattaching said chains can be discovered. Performing Procedure 220 Calabasas requires 2 armed Foundation security personnel, hereafter referred to as guards. 1 Foundation personnel will referred to as celebrant, 1 Class D personnel as an assistant, 1 live male chicken, 1 blade, 1 silver aspergillum, and aspersorium filled with holy water blessed by a priest of Abrahamic faith, and finally 1 kiloton level nuclear device to be detonated in case of catastrophic containment failure. The following is the steps of how to properly perform Procedure 220 Calabasas. First, celebrant, guards, and assistant will open 2317, step through and enter 2317 prime. Assistant will enter first, followed by guards, followed by celebrant. Guards will, at all times, maintain situational awareness of assistant and should be prepared to prevent escape with deadly force. Then, starting from the pillar closest to and in line with 2317, which is 2317A, celebrant circumambulates SCP-2317A through SCP-2317G, proceeding counterclockwise at an even and measured pace. At every other step, celebrant will scatter holy water using the aspergillum and aspersorium in the direction of the circle's center. Upon completing 1 circumambulation of 2317A to G, celebrant scatters holy water over the head of the assistant and recites the following phrase: 7 seals, 7 rings, 7 thrones for the Scarlet King. Celebrant then moves to a safe distance away from assistant, who will take the blade and use it to kill the chicken provided as sacrifice. Blood will be drained from the chicken and added to the aspersorium, then stirred to mix with the holy water already contained within. Assistant then circumambulates 2317A to G in a clockwise direction, scattering the mixture of blood and holy water in the direction of the circle's center. Upon completing another circumambulation of 2317A to G, assistant walks to the center of the circle of stones and pours the remaining mixture of blood and water onto the discolored patch of salt and sand in the center, while reciting the following phrase: blood for the old gods, water for the new king. Upon completing the ritual, all the personnel should gather up the materials, secure the blade, and return through SCP-2317, which is subsequently closed. Failure at any point to properly perform Procedure 220 Calabasas may result in an XK-class end-of-the-world scenario. Should any mishap or failure occur, all personnel are to return immediately through 2317, closing the door behind them. The containment chamber will be immediately locked down, and a Level 2 emergency declared and reported to the O5 Council. You are attempting to access a Security Level 5 Thomiel file. You have been warned. Displaying SCP-2317 Clearance Level 05. Indications are that final containment failure will occur at some point within the next century, as of the writing of SCP-2317's file's writing, which being calculated at around 30 years from now. All efforts to repair or replace the chains have failed. All efforts to rediscover the method for creating these chains have proven fruitless. XK-class end-of-the-world scenario is an unavoidable event. Research is currently underway to determine an alternate containment plan, but the possibility that anything can keep the Devourer from entering our universe is slim. Especially as the original material used to create the chains, namely the bones and sinew of another Devourer entity, are no longer in existence. In order to maintain morale, a false containment procedure dubbed Procedure 220 Calabasas was authored and implemented. The purpose is to provide the fake appearance of active containment to allay anxiety among staff until a more permanent solution can be found. In the meantime, preparations will be made in order to ensure the survival of the human race following containment failure, which is the break of the last chain. In the case of containment breach, Site-100's nuclear device is to be detonated, followed by lockdown of all Foundation facilities, and activation of Protocol 2845-XK1, Strike Down the Moon. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Keter-class object SCP-2845. SCP-2845, also known as the Deer, is quadruped entity, measuring 2.9 meters in height and weighs around 815 kilograms. It appears to have a sinuous neck, while his head appears to have humanoid facial features. 2845 possesses large antlers, measuring 4.8 meters across. Its antlers are white, with black marbling in coloration, and have not been observed to shed. 2845 is covered in hair, with an average length of 10 centimeters, while the face is totally hairless. 2845's coloration is primarily a pastel green, with a stripe of cream on the underside of the neck and belly. On the skull of 2845, it appears that he has a ring of ice suspended behind it that measures 15 centimeters and 1.7 meters in diameter. This ring is interrupted at regular intervals by 7 spheres, consisting of metallic hydrogen and metallic helium. Both the ring and spheres are constantly rotating clockwise. SCP-2845 is capable of instantaneous transmutation and reconstruction of any matter in sight. No matter is created or destroyed during this process. Transmuted matter will remain stable despite the lack of other factors. 2845 will typically surround itself with a transmuted area, with a radius of approximately 5 meters at all times. 2845 has proven itself completely resistant to physical damage. The most common forms of offensive transmutation used by 2845 are a column measuring 5 to 7 meters in diameter and 60 to 80 meters in height, or a horizontal cone measuring between 100 and 150 meters in length and 10 to 30 meters in width at the furthest end. However, 2845 has been observed to attack single targets at distances of up to 10 kilometers. Early observation of 2845 during recovery indicated that it will generally ignore non-combatants, focusing on retaliation against attackers. However, 2845 was not seen to make any attempts to spare non-combatants within the area of effect of its transmutations, and later recovery accounts indicate preemptive attacks against both military and civilian targets. The individuals modified by 2845 are hereafter referred to as SCP-2845-1. Instances of 2845-1 are hexagonal columns, measuring 2.4 meters in height, with rubbery yellow-green skin. 2845-1 instances do not have any outward sense organs. An autopsy has shown that internal organs are likewise absent, but the brain takes up the entirety of the column and contains the reconstituted mass of the other organs and some additional outside materials. It is unknown how 2845-1 instances derive nutrients, or if any nutrition is required. Neuroimaging of SCP-2845-1 specimens has revealed that the brain is in a constant state of high activity. Analysis of multiple specimens indicates that this is the patterns of call and response, assumed to be some form of remote communication between 2845-1 instances. On November 27, 2011, a comet was discovered in space. 2 weeks after the initial discovery, the comet reached perihelion. Solar Dynamics Observatory records images of a fragment breaking off from the main body of the comet. This fragment trajectory confirmed to end in collision with Earth, hence public announcement and evacuations commenced. On December 21, 2011, the fragment lands on the Pacific Ocean, 124 kilometers off the western American coast. SCP-2845 believed to reach shore on the 24th of December. The entity was first observed through civilians' video footage on the Christmas Day of 2011. Drone contact made. 2845 confirmed as hostile. Foundation assets within United States military begin direction of recovery and containment procedures. Foundation containment sites in the region enter lockdown. On the 26th to 29th of December, artillery bombardment of 2845 commences, along with initial battery of tests. Contact with outside containment consultants made at this time upon observation of 2845's properties. On December 30th, 2845 was unimpeded for 16 hours. Bombardment recommences, and it was led across the Sierra Nevada mountains while remaining under heavy bombardment. 2845 was finally contained on the 15th of January 2012 using the initial containment procedures, and Site-100 was built around 2845 to properly contain it. On February 19, 2012, 2845 officially declared contained. 2845's containment is a little complicated compared to other SCPs. The use of outsourced containment resources and consultants has been authorized for the containment of 2845. These consultants are never allowed to leave Site-100. If at any time an outside consultant must be removed from containment of 2845, Class A amnestics are to be applied before release. 48 trained personnel are currently assigned to active containment of 2845, split into 8 teams of 6, with a further 24 individuals available as replacements. Site-100 consists of 9 concentric circular bands, named Ring A to Ring I. In the case of containment breach, Site-100's nuclear device is to be detonated, followed by lockdown of all Foundation facilities, and activation of Protocol 2845-XK1, Strike Down the Moon. To contain 2845, there are 6 procedures to be carried out in a repeating cycle of 63 hours, 54 minutes. Each procedure is to last 39 minutes, with 10 hours between each procedure. Each procedure must be carried out by 6 individuals. At the beginning of each news cycle, containment procedures will be carried out in the next ring closest to the containment chamber. After receiving many complaints on the complicated containment procedure, a professor finally gave an answer on why the ritual will not be changed in any way. It cannot be cut down further, nor can it be added to. It has been set in place, and now that it has begun, any deviation at all could very easily be catastrophic. It is because this is how one seals away a god, and 2845 is a god. It is not a petty local god. It is not one of the mild gods of Earth, or some weaker spirit that is bound by the strength of man's belief. If one thing goes awry, the entirety is lost, and the deadlock is broken. Unstoppable force without an immovable object. The rituals might seem to be nonsense, but they are what is divined to be the best course of action. In the first procedure, containment specialists are presented with masks of joy, sadness, anger, apathy, fear, and foolishness, and act out Ceremony Constantine A. Ceremony Constantine A is a farcical comedy of errors, an exchange of insults between the 6 individuals, culminating in foolishness outwitting the group in a game of riddles and declaring himself king. The Ceremony Constantine A ended with a game of dice. The winner of the game is irrelevant to the procedure. The second procedure involves a performance of a musical piece for flute, oboe, clarinet, French horn, timpani, and bass drum. The piece is accompanied by specific somatic and vocal components, carried out by the players throughout the performance, designated Ceremony Perinaldo A. The performance must be live, and recordings of the piece have no effect. During the third procedure, gifts are exchanged among containment specialists. Content of gifts is irrelevant to the procedure, but each gift must not exceed the price of $4.28. Each gift is accompanied by a recitation and the scattering of grain around the containment chamber. For the fourth procedure, Ceremony Castle A is recited as containment specialists bind their feet with wool and consume half-liters of olive oil. They then will break apart a rock weighing at least 200 kilograms with hammers. Ceremony Castle B is recited throughout the rock-breaking process. A D-class subject is brought in during the fifth procedure, and a symbol will be painted on the stomach with a platinum-based solution, and presented with a blue cloak, crown, and scepter. D-class subject is then restrained in a chair, and Ceremony Cairo A is recited. After recitation of the Ceremony Cairo A, the D-class subject is to be castrated by use of a hand sickle by a containment specialist. The testes are then to be disposed of in a bowl of salt water when Ceremony Cairo B is recited. Finally, in the last procedure, Ceremony Omphalos A is to be recited before roasting of a Class D personnel. Ceremony Omphalos B is to be recited before consumption of the subject. After consumption, Ceremony Omphalos C is to be recited over the gastroliths. which are then swallowed. Vomiting is then induced. In ceremony, Omphalos D is recited, signaling the beginning of a new cycle. Below is a message from Containment Consultant to Site Director. We have, for the time being, fooled it into thinking that we have overpowered it. It does not understand that we do so falsely. For gods, words have power. Ritual and belief hold greater power over a god than all the laws of science. However, it must be kept in mind that the stag could escape, right now, if it so choose. With a thought, this entire facility could turn into a puff of hydrogen. If at any point the stag thought to escape, it would, and we would be powerless to stop it. However, it will not think to escape, or even to change its strategy. The idea will not even pass through its mind. It cannot comprehend the concept. It does not think in the way we think. This is an old god. It does not dabble in decisions. The ritual remains as it is. The men took a fishing trip to the coast of South America, and while they're at it, they decided to sail around the coastline a little more. The trip itself was pleasant. The weather was glorious, and the sea was behaving herself for the first few weeks. He had to admit he was loving it. But it didn't last long. Something baffling happened and shook the men to the core. They wanted to check out an archipelago that supposedly was, in the travel guide's words, breathtaking to the few dozen to have seen them. And true to those words, the views were spectacular. They were covered by emerald verdant grass, colorful flowers, and rocks that all seemed to be uniformly pointed towards the sky. Despite the oddity with the rocks and stones, he felt as though he was witnessing beautiful Mother Nature herself for all of 5 minutes. One by one, the islands started shifting, slowly at first, creating colossal waves that shook the boat like a leaf in rapids. They then shifted faster, moving in a serpentine fashion as an enormous black shadow of some sort of archaic behemoth clouded the water below for miles around them. It continued for some odd minutes, as the water soon became like miniature tidal waves that they barely made it over somehow, until all movement suddenly ceased, and the shadow faded into the depths. The men looked at each other, soaked by the salty waters, and quickly made preparations to head to the mainland. Over there, look! A giant wave rose and was about to collapse on them. Brace yourselves! The wave crashed upon the ship, breaking it in half. As the men were tossed about in the water like a rag doll, they caught a glimpse of the creature, a behemoth that seemed to be the ocean itself. The men were but tiny specks of ants floating in the dark abyss. So this thing is responsible for their predicament, he thought. No, it was not responsible for anything that was happening. The Leviathan was merely existing, indifferent to the tidal waves on the surface, the sunken ship, or the drowning men. The survivors never spoke of what happened that day. The very thought of something that large prowling around the globe beneath the waves made the men question their own existence. So they decided to settle on ignorance, and ignorance is bliss. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you a SCP Foundation Keter-class object, SCP-169. SCP-169, also known as the Leviathan, is believed to be an arthropod of gigantic proportions, and the true beast behind the myth of the Leviathan. Much like many SCPs the Foundation has come across since its inception, the origins and true nature of such entities and objects are only theorized. 169 is no different. 169 was discovered by MTF Gamma-6 as the Foundation suspected anomalous activity stemming from the southern tip of South America in an archipelago. What aroused curiosity in Dr. Shirazawa and the Foundation itself was that the archipelago in question drifted several miles from their original locations in a rather serpentine fashion. After Gamma-6 was sent to investigate the islands, they were tasked with collecting soil samples, rock samples, vegetation, and any entities that they came across. If said entities were hostile, lethal force was authorized. A terrifying realization dawned on Gamma-6 as soon as they dug their shovels into the soil, and it promptly began to bleed, much like the growths they took off of their rock-like plates that were scattered across the island. Feeling that further exploration was unnecessary, Dr. Shirazawa ordered Gamma-6 to return to a site near the coast of Brazil. The soil samples and growths found on the rocks were determined to be organic material and flesh, leading the doctor to understand that the archipelago was actually the spine of some gargantuan arthropod, hence why Leviathan is quite the appropriate moniker for it. According to Dr. Shirazawa and his researchers, 169 is estimated to be between 2,000 and 8,000 kilometers in length and millions of years old. Seeing that such other anomalies of a similar nature were not found on the planet, it was then decided that 169 was possibly the last of its kind. Therefore, almost nothing is known about the creature other than it is possibly dormant. This is believed to be the cause because it only sways or moves a little less than a mile every week and breathes periodically every few months. The ramifications of 169 being active would certainly be seismic tremors and tidal waves, so monitoring of 169 is to happen 24/7 in case of any changes in activity. By direct order of the O5 Council, all ships that come into contact with or near 169 are to be scrapped and erased from all records, public and private. All individuals on board such ships are to be given Class A amnestics and told that they were involved in a shipwreck but managed to survive. Thankfully, these two events are rare, as the archipelago is home to several species of endangered animals and plant life, and so the area and islands are off limits, quite conveniently. Any images taken from satellites of 169 are to be changed and/or destroyed, unless they have been taken with permission or by the Foundation. NASA has generously offered for the Foundation to use their own satellites to monitor and take photos of 169 after the Foundation donated a large sum of them. The U.S. National Oceanic Administration came close to discovering the existence of 169 after they detected an ultra-low frequency sound coming from around the southern coast of South America. An SCP agent within the administration tried to prevent this news from being released to the public, but failed in this task, and the public at large learned of this. The Foundation, however, deduced from the news that the origin of the sound was in fact the head of 169. In the end, none was the wiser as to what made the sound. The O5 Council ordered that all attempts to uncover the truth of the noise were to be suppressed, or sabotaged and undermined by embedded Foundation agents. Should 169 ever become active, it would mean the major seismic shifts and tidal waves, a natural disaster that rivals the vision of apocalypse. Several proposals have been made in regards to this possible event, and many have to do with the utilization of reality-warping Thamiel-class SCPs, as suggested by Dr. Shirazawa. Dr. Shirazawa had a vision. A past researcher appeared in front of him in a dream. An old researcher friend of his. Back then, she was known as Mary Nakayama. She was a lively woman, a bright spot in the bleak Foundation. No matter what gore or horrific knowledge she witnessed or obtained, she always smiled and hoped for a brighter future, compared to Shirazawa's dismal outlook on the state of affairs. But that was the old Mary. Now she was known by her designation, SCP-001, the Godhead Eternal. After acquiring multi-universal levels of power and reality-warping capabilities, she had ascended to a high plane of existence, but promised that she would try to steer things right. It will take time, and to wish her luck before she left. He believed that she had returned to them through that dream of his, which of course brought terrible possible consequences as well. For why else would an omnipotent being such as herself make her presence known again in this world? That, and she said so herself. "Shirazawa, my friend," she said, "I have observed the world and the unfathomable universe that encapsulates our own and even the ones around that, and has determined that the Leviathan's stirring is simply the beginning of apocalyptic events set to come upon them soon." Visions flashed in Shirazawa's eyes. He was frightened by the hellscapes. If the Leviathan awakens fully, it will mark the beginning of a K-class extinction event. And should that happen, summon me, she said. She warned that she could only be summoned once and once only. Therefore, they must be extremely vigilant in preventing all disaster scenarios before they even think to have her aid. A Hail Mary, if they will. The O5 scoffed at him after hearing it. Do you have proof that she will indeed protect humanity and this planet from destruction? Surely you don't expect us to take a man's dream as fact, yes? Finally, it's about time a Thamiel class decides to help us out of its own free will. If she can prevent any K-class extinction event, then perhaps we should think about becoming more proactive with a few of our pressing problems facing the Foundation, he said sarcastically. But deep down, they all knew there was merit in Dr. Shirazawa's words. They have no such luxury. The doctor pulled out a small gray metal box with a small concave circle on the top of it that has a small hole in the center. She instructed any O5 council member to trickle their blood into this until the box is full. Only then will she be called here to protect us. I now give this to you. The doctor hands it over to the council and left the room. The council stared at the box, not sure what to make of it. They knew that the Leviathan could not be contained. One small move from it will rock the very foundation of the continents. They can only be saved once. If their demise doesn't come from the Leviathan, it would be from other threats. Apocalypse is inevitable in the end. Somewhere, deep in the ocean where no light reaches, the Leviathan stirs.